My girlfriend demanded I sleep on the couch, so her male friend could have the bed. I said, no problem. Then I grabbed my keys and never came back. She's still texting from that same couch. All right, Reddit, grab some coffee because this one's a doozy. My girlfriend of 2 years asked me to sleep on the couch so her male friend could take my spot in the bed in my apartment. That I pay for. Let me tell you how that conversation ended. I'm 31, work as an HVAC technician in Arizona, and I've been living in the same apartment in Phoenix for about 4 years now. Nothing fancy, just a 2-bedroom place in a decent neighborhood with good AC and a parking spot for my truck. The complex has a pool I never use and a laundry room that's always busy on weekends. But otherwise it's quiet. Just working professionals and a few retirees who water their plants at dawn. The apartment itself took me forever to furnish properly. When I first moved in, I had a mattress on the floor and a folding chair. 4 years later, I'd turned it into an actual home. Real furniture, not the hand-me-down stuff from college. A couch I'd saved up for. A bed frame with a headboard like an adult. Kitchen appliances that actually worked. It was simple, but it was mine, and I was proud of it. The second bedroom I converted into a home gym/storage space because I'm single. And what else was I gonna do with it? Had a bench in there, some free weights, a pull-up bar mounted in the doorframe. Nothing fancy but enough to stay in shape without paying for a gym membership. My truck was my other pride and joy. A 2015 Ford F-150 that I'd bought used, but treated like new. Changed the oil religiously. Kept it clean inside and out. Handled the minor repairs myself because working with my hands is what I do. Some guys have hobbies like golf or video games. I've got my truck and the occasional project car I pick up cheap from auctions. Well, I was single. Then I met Brittany. We connected at a mutual friend's birthday party about 2 years ago. She was 28, worked as an administrative assistant at a real estate office, and had this smile that could light up a room. We hit it off immediately, exchanged numbers, and before I knew it, we were dating exclusively. She was different from the women I dated before. More put together. Had her own apartment, her own car, a job that paid actual bills. Seemed like she had her head on straight. Our first few dates were simple. Dinner, movies, a hike once, when the weather wasn't trying to kill us. She laughed at my jokes, asked about my work like she actually cared, and never complained about where I took her or what I drove. By the third month, we were basically inseparable. She'd come over after work, and we'd cook dinner together. She'd fall asleep on my couch while I watched sports, and somehow that felt like the best thing in the world. I started thinking about the future for the first time in years. Marriage, maybe kids eventually, a house with a garage where I could work on cars while she did whatever made her happy. Brittany moved into my place about 8 months into the relationship. Looking back, that was probably too fast. But when you're in love, you don't think about stuff like that. You just think about how nice it is to wake up next to someone, to have dinner together, to build something with another person. The move-in went smooth enough. She didn't have much stuff, just clothes and some kitchen gadgets and a collection of books she never actually read. We merged our lives piece by piece. Her bathroom stuff mixed with mine. Her shows in my TV queue. Her name on the mailbox next to mine. Looking back, there were probably warning signs even then. Little things I brushed off because everything else seemed so good. She'd get annoyed when I worked late, even though she knew the job was like that. She'd compare our apartment to her friends' places, always finding something lacking. She'd scroll through social media and sigh at pictures of vacations we couldn't afford. But I told myself that was just normal relationship stuff. Nobody's perfect, right? My job keeps me busy. HVAC work in Arizona is basically year-round employment because the heat never stops trying to kill people's air conditioning units. Summers are brutal, 14-hour days sometimes, crawling around in attics that feel like the surface of the sun. Your clothes are soaked through by 10 a.m. Your tools get so hot they'll burn your hands if you're not careful. You're sweating so much you have to remember to hydrate constantly, or you'll end up in the ER. But the pay is solid, and I've built up a good reputation with a company that treats its people right. My boss Frank is this old-timer who started the business 40 years ago and runs it like family. Guys who work hard get rewarded. Guys who slack off get pushed out. It's simple and fair, and I've always appreciated that about him. The crew I work with are good people too. Dave and Ramon have been there since before I started. We've got this rhythm now, working jobs together without needing to say much. They know when to pass me tools. I know when to cover their breaks. We grab lunch at the same taco truck, complain about the same customers, share the same sense of humor that only develops after years of shared suffering. The point is, I work hard. I provide. The apartment was mine before Brittany, and even after she moved in, I never asked her to split rent equally. She paid a third. I covered the rest plus utilities. Seemed fair since I made more money, and it was my place first. Everything was good. At least, I thought it was. The problems started creeping in about 6 months ago, though I didn't recognize them for what they were at the time. Brittany had this friend from college named Austin. They'd been buddies since freshman year, she said. Just friends, nothing romantic. They tried dating once and realized they were better as pals. Classic story, right? I had no reason not to believe her. She'd mentioned him occasionally over the course of our relationship. Austin said this, Austin did that. He came up in stories about her college days, always as a side character. Some dude who was part of their friend group, but nothing special. Austin moved back to Phoenix from somewhere up north. He'd been gone for years, doing whatever he was doing, and suddenly he's back in town and reconnecting with old friends. Brittany was excited about it. Said it would be great to have her old crew back together. I'm not the jealous type. Never have been. My philosophy has always been that if someone wants to cheat, they're gonna cheat whether you're paranoid about it or not. Trust them until they give you a reason not to. So when Brittany started hanging out with Austin more, I didn't make a big deal about it. They'd grab coffee, go to lunch. She'd text him throughout the day and laugh at whatever he was saying. Normal friend stuff, I figured. Everyone has friends outside their relationship, and expecting your partner to cut off all ties with the opposite gender is toxic nonsense. At least that's what I told myself. But then the dynamic started shifting. First, it was little comments. Austin thinks I should try that new restaurant downtown. Austin says I need to be more adventurous. Austin thinks Phoenix is too boring and we should travel more. Cool, I thought. Austin sure has a lot of opinions about my girlfriend's life. Then Brittany started comparing us. Not outright, not maliciously, but in these subtle ways that stung more than she probably realized. I'd come home exhausted from a 10-hour day fixing commercial AC units, and she'd be on the phone with Austin, laughing about some inside joke. When she hung up, she'd look at me and say something like, Austin's been to 12 countries. Can you believe that? 12. We've never even been outside Arizona together. I'd point out that I can't exactly take 2 weeks off during summer when everyone's AC is dying, but that explanation never seemed to satisfy her. She'd just sigh and scroll through Austin's Instagram, showing me pictures of him in various exotic locations. Thailand, Portugal, Iceland. Like I was supposed to feel bad for not having a life of permanent vacation. The criticism got sharper. My hobbies were boring. My truck was too old. I didn't take her anywhere exciting. I was always tired. I never wanted to do anything spontaneous. Every observation about my life came with an unspoken comparison to this dude who apparently lived like every day was a Red Bull commercial. Meanwhile, Austin was this fountain of adventure and excitement. Austin went skydiving last month. Austin's thinking about moving to Costa Rica. Austin doesn't believe in settling down. Austin lives for the moment. I started to dread hearing that name. It would pop up in every conversation, every dinner, every quiet moment. Austin, Austin, Austin. Like he was some kind of religious figure I was supposed to worship. About 2 months before the couch incident, Brittany dropped a bomb on me. Austin's lease was ending, and he was between places. Could he stay with us for a few weeks while he figured out his next move? Every instinct in my body screamed no, but what was I supposed to say? If I refused, I'd look like an insecure boyfriend who couldn't handle his girlfriend having male friends. If I said yes, I'd be letting this dude into my home. It felt like a trap either way. I made a decision I'd come to regret. I said yes, but with conditions. He could stay in the spare room, the one I'd converted into a gym. I'd clear out some of my equipment temporarily. 2 weeks max. And he'd need to contribute something toward groceries and utilities. Brittany was thrilled, hugged me, called me the best boyfriend ever, said she knew I was a good guy. For a moment, I felt like maybe I was just being paranoid about this whole Austin thing. Maybe he really was just an old friend who needed a hand. Maybe I'd been reading too much into the situation. That feeling lasted about 3 days. Austin showed up with 2 duffel bags and a laptop case. First impression? The guy was exactly what I expected. Tall, fit in that effortless way that suggested he'd never done manual labor in his life, with this surfer bro vibe that was painfully out of place in landlocked Arizona. He had a tan that looked maintained rather than earned, and clothes that walked the line between casual and carefully curated. The kind of guy who probably spent more time on his appearance than he'd ever admit. He had opinions about everything, and a casual way of inserting himself into every conversation. Within an hour of arriving, he'd commented on my furniture, my entertainment system, my choice of grocery store, and my workout equipment, all under the guise of making conversation. But each comment had this subtle condescension that made my jaw clench. The first night, Brittany made dinner, and the 3 of us ate together. Austin dominated the conversation, telling stories about his travels, his adventures, his entrepreneurial ventures. That sounded like a lot of failed get-rich-quick schemes to me. Some app that never launched, some importing business that went nowhere, some consulting gig that he described in the vaguest possible terms. Brittany hung on every word like he was recounting war stories. When I brought up my work, Austin gave me this patronizing smile and said, "That's cool, man. Someone's got to keep the AC running. Someone's got to keep the AC running." Like I was some background character in my own apartment. Like my job, the thing that paid for the roof over his freeloading head, was somehow less valuable than his endless stream of failed ventures and travel Instagram posts. I didn't respond, just kept eating. But something shifted in me that night. A tiny crack in the trust I'd been trying so hard to maintain. The 2 weeks came and went. Austin was still there. Brittany said he just needed a little more time. His new place fell through. but he had another lead. 1 more week, tops. She'd handle it. I just needed to be patient. 1 week became 2. 2 became 4. Meanwhile, I watched my relationship deteriorate in real time. Brittany and Austin would stay up late watching movies while I went to bed, because I had work at 6 a.m. They'd be laughing at something on the TV, or talking in hushed tones that would go quiet whenever I walked through. I'd come home to find them cooking together. This whole domestic scene that I was clearly the third wheel in. She started talking to me less and less. Always distracted. Always on her phone texting him even when he was in the next room. The apartment that used to feel like mine now felt occupied. Austin's stuff spreading into every room. His toiletries crowding my bathroom counter. His food taking up space in my fridge. His presence filling every corner until there was barely room for me. I confronted her about it once. Asked if something was going on between them. She got defensive immediately. Called me paranoid. Said I was trying to isolate her from her friends. Accused me of being controlling and insecure. All the buzzwords designed to make me feel like the bad guy. She actually turned it around on me, saying my accusations were proof of my own insecurities rather than proof of anything she'd done. I backed off because maybe I was overreacting. Maybe living with someone new was just an adjustment period. Maybe I needed to give it time. Stupid, I know. But when you love someone, you make excuses for things you shouldn't excuse. You tell yourself the red flags are just quirks. The warning signs are just miscommunications. The gut feelings are just insecurity. It was a Thursday night. I remember because Thursdays were my early days, done by 4 p.m., which meant I could actually be home at a reasonable hour. I walked into my apartment to find Brittany and Austin on the couch, watching some travel documentary about Southeast Asia. Nothing suspicious on the surface, but there was this energy between them that made my skin crawl. They were sitting too close. She was leaning into him. They both looked up at me like I'd interrupted something. I dropped my work bag and headed to the kitchen for something to eat. Brittany followed me. I could tell by her expression that a conversation was coming. The kind of conversation that starts with a heavy sigh and a, "So we need to talk." She hit me with it. Austin had been having trouble sleeping in the spare room. The pull-out couch wasn't comfortable enough, and his back was really bothering him. He had some kind of condition, she said, though she'd never mentioned that before. The mattress in our bedroom was much better for his back. I just stared at her, waiting for the punchline. She wanted me to sleep on the couch for a few nights so Austin could have the bed. Our bed, in my apartment, where I paid the majority of the rent. I asked her to repeat it because surely I'd misheard. Nope, same request. Just for a few nights, until Austin found his new place. It would really help his back, and I was so strong and flexible from work that the couch wouldn't bother me at all. I set down my fork, looked her dead in the eyes, asked if she was serious right now. She started getting defensive again, said I was being dramatic, said it was just a bed, and why was I so attached to material things? Said Austin was a guest and guests should be comfortable. Said a real man wouldn't feel threatened by helping out a friend. A real man. That's what she said to me. In my home. Asking me to give up my bed to another dude so she could, what? Play hostess? I took a deep breath. Told myself to stay calm. Then I asked the obvious question. If Austin needs the bed, why can't Brittany sleep on the couch? She looked at me like I'd suggested something insane. Because that's where Austin has been sleeping, she said. It wouldn't be fair to make him move back to the couch when we have a perfectly good bed. The logic was so twisted I almost laughed. Almost. Instead, I just nodded. Said, okay, no problem. She brightened up immediately, thanked me, said she knew I'd understand, started talking about how it was just temporary and everything would be normal soon. I let her talk, didn't argue, didn't fight, just listened. Then I walked to the bedroom, grabbed my keys off the nightstand, my wallet from the dresser, and my jacket from the closet. Brittany followed me, suddenly confused. I told her she was right. The couch wasn't fair to Austin. Neither was the spare room. So I was solving the problem. She could have the whole bedroom. She could give Austin whatever he needed. I was leaving. The color drained from her face. She tried to backtrack. Said she didn't mean it like that. Said we could talk about this. Said I was overreacting. I was already at the door. She asked where I was going. I told her I didn't know yet, but anywhere was better than a place where I'm treated like a guest in my own home. Last thing I heard before the door closed was her calling my name. I kept walking. I drove around for about an hour, trying to process what just happened. My hands were shaking on the steering wheel. Not from anger, but from adrenaline. I just walked out on a 2-year relationship over a couch request. But it wasn't really about the couch, was it? It was about everything the couch represented. The streets of Phoenix blurred past as I drove. Familiar landmarks looking different somehow. The gas station where Brittany and I used to stop for road trip snacks. The restaurant where we'd had our 6-month anniversary dinner. Every corner of the city held some memory of us. And now all of it felt contaminated. I pulled into a parking lot somewhere and just sat there. Engine running. AC blasting because even at night, Arizona doesn't cool down much. My phone buzzed in my pocket, but I didn't look at it. Didn't want to see whatever excuses or accusations were coming through. The weird thing was, I didn't feel as devastated as I thought I would. Walking out of that apartment, I expected to feel broken, lost, like my whole world was collapsing. But instead, there was this strange clarity, like I'd been living in fog for months and suddenly the air cleared. My buddy James lived about 20 minutes across town. We'd been friends since high school, the kind of friend you can call at any hour without explanation. We'd survived football practice together, graduated together, been each other's wingmen through countless failed dating attempts. He was there when my dad got sick a few years back. I was there when his engagement fell apart. I texted him, asked if his spare room was available for a few nights. He responded in seconds, said the door was open and there was cold stuff in the fridge if I needed it. No questions, no hesitation, just immediate support. That's the kind of friend James is. I showed up at his place around 9 p.m. James took one look at my face and didn't ask questions. Just handed me a Gatorade and turned on the game. We sat in silence for a while, which is exactly what I needed. No pressure to talk, no prodding for details. Just two guys watching baseball like nothing was wrong. Eventually, I told him everything. The Austin situation, the gradual disrespect, the couch request, my exit. He listened without interrupting, which is one of the things I respect most about James. Most people want to jump in with advice or commentary. He just listens until you're done. When I finished, he just nodded and said, "So when are you getting your stuff?" That's when it hit me. All my belongings were still in that apartment. My clothes, my furniture, my tools, everything I'd accumulated over 4 years. Brittany had my whole life hostage. My bed, my couch, my kitchen table. Everything I'd worked for was sitting in an apartment with a woman who just asked me to sleep on the floor. I told him I'd figure it out tomorrow. For now, I just needed to sleep. My phone started blowing up around midnight. Brittany first, then Austin, then Brittany again. The notifications kept rolling in, one after another, lighting up my screen like some kind of desperate fireworks display. The texts from her were a masterclass in manipulation. First came confusion. "Where did you go? Why aren't you answering? This is so immature." Then came bargaining. "Okay, we can talk about the sleeping arrangements. I didn't realize you felt so strongly. Just come home. We can work this out." Then came guilt tripping. "I can't believe you're doing this to me. You're abandoning me. What am I supposed to tell Austin? He's going to think this is his fault." Then came anger. "Fine. If you want to be a child about this, go ahead. I don't need someone who can't handle a simple request. Plenty of guys would be happy to have me." Austin chimed in too, which I thought was bold considering he was the catalyst for all this. He sent one message saying he didn't mean to cause problems between us, and maybe I was taking things too personally. Real diplomatic for a guy who'd been camping out in my apartment for weeks while probably sleeping with my girlfriend. I muted both of them and went to sleep. For the first time in weeks, I slept soundly. The next morning, I called into work and explained the situation to Frank. He'd been through a divorce himself years ago, so he understood immediately. Told me to take the day and handle my business. Said the crew could cover my jobs and to take care of what needed taken care of. That's the kind of boss Frank is. When his guys need something, he delivers. No questions about when I'd be back. No guilt trip about leaving them short-handed. Just genuine support and the time I needed. James had a pickup truck, and he offered to help me move my stuff. We grabbed breakfast at this diner near his place, went over the game plan, and headed to the apartment mid-morning when I knew Brittany would be at work. I still had my key, and everything in there was mine anyway. Legally and morally, I had every right to take what I'd paid for. The drive over felt surreal. Same streets I'd driven 1,000 times, but now they felt like enemy territory. I kept expecting to see Brittany's car, kept tensing up at every corner, but we made it to the complex without incident. Walking up the stairs to my old front door felt strange. 3 days ago, this was home. Now it was just a place I used to live. What I found when I walked in made my blood boil. The spare room, which was supposed to be temporary housing for Austin, had been completely rearranged. His stuff was everywhere. Clothes in my closet, toiletries in my bathroom, his laptop on my desk. The guy had fully moved in. My gym equipment had been shoved into a corner, covered with a blanket like it was embarrassing. His posters were on the wall. His shoes were lined up by the door. It looked like he'd lived there for months, not weeks. But that wasn't the worst part. When I walked into the bedroom, I saw it. 2 pillows on my side of the bed. 2 water glasses on the nightstand. A pair of Austin's shoes by the door. They'd been sleeping together. In my bed. While I was paying rent. While I was working 14-hour days in 100-degree heat so she could have a nice apartment to live in. While I was making excuses for her behavior and giving her the benefit of the doubt. The evidence was everywhere once I started looking. His charger plugged in by my side of the bed. His clothes mixed with hers in the laundry basket. Little signs of domestic intimacy that told the whole story without needing words. The couch request wasn't about his back. It was about them wanting me out of the picture so they could stop sneaking around. They probably thought I was too stupid to figure it out. Too trusting. Too nice. I stood there for a moment, just taking it in. James came up behind me, saw what I was seeing, and let out a low whistle. For about 30 seconds, I considered doing something stupid. Breaking things. Confronting them. making a scene. My hands were balled into fists, and there was this heat rising in my chest that felt dangerous. But then, this strange calm settled over me. What would that accomplish? It wouldn't change what they did. It wouldn't get my time back. It would just make me look unstable and give Brittany ammunition to play the victim. She'd tell everyone I trashed the apartment, went crazy, proved that I was the bad guy all along. Nah, not giving her that satisfaction. So instead, I got to work. James and I spent 4 hours systematically removing every single thing that belonged to me from that apartment. The TV I'd bought, the couch, ironically, the kitchen appliances, my bedroom furniture, all my clothes, my tools, my gym equipment, everything that was mine. We worked efficiently, like a military operation. Room by room, piece by piece. Load after load to the truck, then to the storage unit I'd rented that morning. By mid-afternoon, the apartment was stripped of everything I'd contributed over 4 years. When we were done, the place looked hollow. Brittany would come home to bare walls, an empty living room, and no bed to sleep in. Hope Austin's back enjoys the floor. Hope his 12 countries prepared him for roughing it. I left my key on the kitchen counter with a note that said, "Good luck with the rent. It's due on the 1st. Brief, professional, cold, exactly what she deserved. Brittany came home that evening to discover what I'd done. The calls and texts ramped up to nuclear levels. She was crying on my voicemail. "How could you do this? You took everything. I can't even sleep tonight because there's no bed. This is cruel, even for you, even for me." Like I was the villain in this story. Austin called too. Now his tone was different, less condescending, more panicked. He was saying something about how he and Brittany were just friends, and I was misreading the situation. Said the bedroom thing was innocent, he just needed better back support. I'm sure the 2 water glasses on the nightstand were for back support too. James was monitoring my phone while I packed everything into a storage unit. He'd read the messages out loud, and we'd both shake our heads at how pathetic they sounded. By day 3, Brittany's tone shifted again. Now she was trying a different approach. She admitted that maybe she'd gotten too close to Austin. Said it was emotional but never physical. Said she'd been feeling neglected because I worked so much, and Austin was just there, and one thing led to another. Classic blame shifting. I worked too much to provide for the apartment she lived in, so naturally she had to find emotional support in another man's arms. Made perfect sense. I still didn't respond to any of it. A week later, I got a text from her mom. Mrs. Patterson had always liked me. Said I was a good influence on her daughter. Her message was apologetic, saying she'd heard what happened and couldn't believe Brittany would do something like that. Said she'd raised her better. I appreciated the sentiment but kept my response short. Thanked her for reaching out. Said I wished her family the best. That was more than Brittany deserved. I found a new apartment within 2 weeks. Same general area, different complex. Smaller than my old place, but cleaner, newer, and most importantly, mine alone. James helped me move everything from storage on a Saturday. We grabbed breakfast burritos, rented a dolly, and knocked it out in 6 hours. By nightfall, my new place looked like home. Gym equipment set up in the spare room. Couch facing the TV at the perfect angle. My tools organized in the closet exactly how I like them. Frank called me Monday morning with good news. One of the senior guys was retiring, and he wanted me to take over his route. Bigger territory, better clients, significant pay bump. I said yes before he finished explaining the details. The next few weeks flew by. New apartment, new responsibilities at work, new routine that was entirely mine. I started hitting the gym again, meal prepping on Sundays, picking up extra shifts when they were available. About a month after I moved out, I ran into Brittany's coworker at the grocery store. Woman named Linda, who I'd met at a few office parties. She spotted me in the produce section and made a beeline over. She told me everything. Turns out Austin wasn't too keen on paying rent. When the first of the month came around after I left, Brittany asked him to cover half. He laughed and said he didn't have it. Said he was between opportunities. Said she should ask her parents for help. The landlord sent a warning notice after 2 weeks. Then a final notice. Then eviction proceedings started. Brittany had to break her lease early. Cost her $2,400 in penalties, plus the deposit she'd never see again. She moved back in with her parents in Scottsdale, cramming her stuff into her childhood bedroom at 28 years old. Austin, he bounced within 3 days of the eviction notice. Packed his 2 duffel bags and his laptop, said he had a friend in Tucson who could put him up. Didn't even help her move. Didn't offer gas money. Just disappeared. Linda said Brittany showed up to work crying for a week straight. Had to take personal days because she couldn't function. The whole office knew what happened. But here's the best part. Apparently Austin had borrowed $600 from Brittany to fix his car before he left. Promised to pay her back as soon as he got settled. That was 5 weeks ago. He'd blocked her number. The great adventurer who'd traveled to 12 countries couldn't scrape together $600 to pay back the woman he'd supposedly fallen for. Linda asked if I wanted Brittany's new number, in case I wanted to reach out. I told her I was good. Grabbed my groceries and left. 3 months after everything went down, I was grabbing tacos with James at this spot near downtown. We'd just finished a Saturday morning working on my motorcycle in his garage. Grease under our fingernails, cold drinks in hand, talking about nothing important. Then Brittany walked in. She was with her mom, probably doing some mother-daughter lunch thing. The second she spotted me, she froze mid-step like she'd seen a ghost. Her mom noticed, followed her gaze, and her face fell. James saw the whole thing. He leaned over and asked if I wanted to leave. I told him nah, we were here first. Brittany made her way over. Her mom hung back, looking uncomfortable. She looked different, thinner, tired. The confidence she used to carry herself with was gone, replaced by something that looked a lot like regret. She started talking fast, said she'd been wanting to reach out, said she owed me an apology, said Austin turned out to be everything I probably thought he was. Unreliable, selfish, a user who bounced the second things got hard. I just let her talk, didn't interrupt. She said moving back with her parents was humiliating. Said she'd lost most of her friends because they all sided with me. Said her dad barely spoke to her for a month because he'd liked me so much. Said she'd been thinking about what she threw away every single day. Then she asked if we could grab coffee sometime, just to talk, just to get some closure. I told her I didn't need closure. I was doing fine. Her eyes welled up. She asked if there was any chance we could try again. Said she'd learned her lesson. Said she'd never take me for granted again. I looked at her for a long moment. 2 years we'd been together. Hundreds of dinners. Thousands of conversations. Plans for a future that she threw away for some drifter with good stories. I told her no. Told her I wished her well, but we were done. Then I turned back to my tacos. She stood there for another few seconds, probably waiting for me to change my mind. When I didn't, she walked back to her mom. They left without ordering. James waited until they were gone, then raised his drink. Said he was proud of me. I didn't feel proud. Didn't feel vindicated. Didn't feel much of anything, honestly. Just ready to move on. 6 months after the breakup, Frank made good on his promise. He called me into his office on a Tuesday afternoon, handed me a folder, and told me he wanted me to become a partner in the business. He was 63. His knees were shot from decades of crawling through attics. He wanted to start stepping back, maybe retire in 5 years. And he wanted someone he trusted to take over. The deal was good. I'd buy in over time, take on more responsibility gradually, and eventually own 40% of the company. He'd stay on as a consultant until he was ready to fully retire. I signed the papers that Friday. The guys on the crew threw me a little celebration at the shop. Dave brought a cake his wife made. Ramon gave a toast that was mostly insults, but ended with him saying I deserved it. Frank just sat in the corner smiling like a proud dad. That same week, I put an offer on a house. Nothing crazy. 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, a garage big enough for my truck, and a project car. Needed some work, but that's what I do. The seller accepted, and I started the mortgage process. James helped me move in on a Saturday in October. By then, I'd accumulated enough stuff that it took 2 trips with both our trucks. We finished around sunset, cracked open some sodas on the back patio, and watched the sky turn orange over the mountains. He asked if I ever thought about Brittany anymore. I told him honestly, sometimes, not with anger or regret, just wondering how things could have gone so differently, how someone I thought I knew could turn out to be someone else entirely. He nodded and said, that's life. People surprise you. Sometimes good, sometimes bad. You just gotta keep moving. The next morning, I woke up in my own house, my name on the deed, my truck in the garage, my future spread out in front of me with no one else's fingerprints on it. First thing I did was make coffee in my new kitchen. Second thing I did was start a list of all the projects I wanted to tackle. New deck in the backyard. Convert the 3rd bedroom into a proper home gym. Maybe build some shelving in the garage, enough to keep me busy for years. 8 months after I walked out of that apartment, I was at a hardware store picking up supplies for the deck project when my phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. Turned out to be Brittany's dad. He apologized for reaching out randomly. Said he'd gotten my number from his wife. Said he just wanted me to know that he was sorry for how things turned out. That he'd always thought of me like the son he never had. That watching Brittany throw away our relationship for some wandering fool was one of the most frustrating things he'd ever witnessed as a father. He said Brittany was doing better now. Got a new job. Started seeing someone from her office. He hoped it worked out for her, but he also hoped I'd found someone who appreciated me. I thanked him for the message. Told him I was doing well. Told him I'd always appreciated the time we spent together working on stuff in his garage. Meant it too. The man taught me more about engines in a few months than I'd learned my whole life before that. He sent back a thumbs up emoji. That was it. Simple closure from someone who actually deserved it. 2 weeks later, I met someone. Her name was Jessica. Nurse at the hospital downtown, worked the overnight shift, which meant her schedule was as brutal as mine. We met at the diner where I'd started eating breakfast on Saturday mornings. She was sitting at the counter, scrubs still on, dead tired, but still smiling at the waitress. We got to talking because the only open seat was next to her. Found out we both worked jobs that most people didn't understand. Both valued stability over excitement. Both preferred quiet nights at home over bars and clubs. I asked for her number before I left. She gave it to me without hesitation. Our first date was a week later. Nothing fancy, just dinner at an Italian place near my new house. She asked questions about HVAC work and actually listened to the answers. Didn't check her phone once. Laughed at my jokes even when they weren't that funny. At the end of the night, she said she'd had a great time and wanted to do it again. I drove home that night feeling something I hadn't felt in a long time. Not excitement exactly, more like possibility. Like maybe the next chapter of my life was starting, and it might actually be better than the last one. Final update. It's been a year now since the couch incident. Figured I'd wrap this up for anyone who stuck around. Brittany texted me on the anniversary. Said she was sorry. Said she still thought about what she did. Said she hoped I was happy. I didn't respond. Not out of spite. Just didn't have anything to say. Austin apparently made it to Costa Rica after all. Saw it on social media through a friend of a friend. He's teaching surfing lessons or something. Living that spontaneous life he always talked about? Good for him. Far away from anyone I care about. Jessica and I are still together. 6 months now. She practically lives at my place most weeks. Her toothbrush is in my bathroom. Her coffee mug is in my cabinet. But this time it feels different. This time, I'm not carrying the whole relationship on my back while she daydreams about someone else. Frank officially announced his retirement last month. The transition is happening this spring. By summer, I'll be running the company with 2 other guys who bought in as junior partners. 32 years old with my name on a business, a house with equity, and a woman who actually wants to be with me. Not bad for a guy who got asked to sleep on his own couch. Brittany's still out there somewhere, probably lying awake some nights wondering how things could have been different. Maybe she learned something. Maybe she didn't. Either way, it's not my problem anymore. I built a life without her, a better one. And every morning I wake up in my own bed, in my own house, next to someone who respects me. That couch she wanted me to sleep on, sitting in my living room right now. Jessica's curled up on it watching TV while I type this. Funny how things work out. Guys, we are so close to hit 100,000 subscribers on this channel. If you are not subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing. It really helps hit that 100,000 mark. Thanks for making this dream come true.